You are listening to Acecomicals. My name's Greg. Today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome to Acecomicals episode 10. No 00. And with me today to talk about their recent adventures in funny books is Leon. And we don't have Rahul this time. He spent the bank holiday in Wales, I believe. And he might still be there in Puzzlewood Forest.
Man, Wales is a scary place.
Strange.
You don't want to get
place.
lost in Puzzlewood Forest up against Kylo Ren. Did you not watch the film?
No, it's a scary place. We hope he gets out alive anyway. I hear it's Tolkien country. I thought that's why he went, because it was like
pretty much is. I think he did a whole big journey up there to the Cotswolds and then straight into Middle Earth.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of crossover today. Quite a list and quite a few things that we've both read. It's nice to see that my recommendations are actually permeating, getting through to people. It's great. So
it was about time.
Yeah, I'm going to start with one that we haven't got in common because I've been dying to talk about this, and I'm hoping other people are going to read it because I think it's a cool
title.
Yeah, it's called Samaritan Veritas, and this is like number 1. So this just came out this week, but it's actually part of last week, I guess, because this week is now going to be May 31st comics when you guys are listening to this. But it's it's like the latest in a long line of interconnected titles, all published through Image Comics, all with a very similar theme. You've got, some of you may have heard of these. You've got Postal, The Tithe, Think Tank, Eden's Fall, and now this. So it's split into seasons as well, like a TV show, which I find quite useful. And this is all listed in the back of this first issue. So it tells you basically, if you're starting with this, you don't have to read everything else. But if you want to read everything else, this is how it all starts.
What publisher is this?
Image.
Oh, really? Okay.
Top Cow via Image.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've got Think Tank and Postal and The Tithe are season 1. Then season 2, you've got volume 4 of Postal. I think it's the 4 and 5, volumes 4 and 5 of Think Tank and Eden's Fall. And in season 3, which is what we're up to now, is where Samaritan Veritas starts. Samaritan Veritas. And you've got another volume of Postal. So, I mean, this book is basically there's this genius hacker girl who has a vendetta against the current American president, who I think became the American president through the events of the previous 2 seasons of this comic. I'm calling them seasons because they're called seasons here. And he's a religious nutcase who perpetrated... Basically, he fabricated and perpetrated terrorist acts on American soil and then blamed it on Islamic terrorists.
Oh, topical.
Yeah. And now he's president and he's like super religious, like Christian nutcase. And she's got a vendetta against him. And it's all explained actually as you read the comic, like all the events. It references events in the previous stuff, but it kind of gives you like a bare bones broad strokes of what happened and says if you want to read more, read this one. So it's quite good the way it does that, the way it signposts everything, and you don't feel like you've missed anything. Because I'm jumping into this brand new. I knew nothing about any of this before reading this first issue. And I don't feel like I've missed a thing.
It doesn't feel like jumping into like
no, it doesn't.
A TV show in season 3.
No, it really does not feel like I'm jumping into the middle of anything. It feels like the beginning of a story, which I think is really nice.
Is it more sort of like Discworld in a way? Where there's different jumping on points? I
guess, yeah. I would say...
but with a more obvious order, I assume.
Yeah. Like Discworld with a more obvious order, or even like some Marvel titles, but more obvious and less convoluted. So like a clean version of something Marvel or DC might have attempted. Yeah, I mean, not to put too much shade on Marvel and DC, but yeah. The cover of this book is it's Jon Hacker standing with handheld device, portable. I think it's like a smartphone. She's got like her files under one arm, and the whole the colouring is green and yellow. It's all framed in green and yellow with like dark shadows and things like that. And a lot of the book actually appears to be carry a similar theme. I mean, there's a point where it gets more colourful. That's where, because obviously after the events of the previous books, she's had something to do with it, and she's decided to escape and go off the grid and live in France for a bit. And that's all nice and colourful. But then it's kind of like, for me, it's shades of green and yellow seem to be a running theme.
Okay.
She's blonde for a start, so there's no getting away from that. And she has green eyes as well, actually, which I've just noticed. So I think it's kind of like a play on that. And it's really good. It's kind of like 24, but with like a really tech edge.
Oh, really? Okay, that sounds quite interesting. It's
got like a little bit of a. I don't know why it's got 24-iness about it to me, but I don't know. It's like Mr. Robot meets 24 meets government espionage, more stuff. Which 24 is government espionage anyway, and there's like there's assassination plots. There's like her hiring mercenaries to carry out a kidnapping for her. She kidnaps some like one of these like pastors who preaches and then gets you to donate money on TV.
Yeah, the televangelist.
Yeah, televangelist dude. Yeah, he's like big friends with the president, so she kidnaps him and holds him to ransom for some like resources. And yeah, it's really cool. So I think that the series is basically going to follow this girl's mission, this one woman mission to take down the American president, which I think is pretty cool. Actually, I quite like it.
I've got two questions for you then.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, I mean, is what your overall feelings on it? Is it, from all the stuff you said, it definitely sounds like things that ring my bells and interest me. Is it something that you would stick with?
It's something I'm going to stick with. It interests me. Things like this don't usually interest me that much. I think this is why you're asking this question, because you know me, and you know that this kind of stuff is usually not my cup of tea. But I actually, I picked this up on a whim, and I thought it sounded interesting because I wanted to see how they would do this in a comic. Because it's not usual for me anyway. It's not usual comic material, but I really, really like it. I quite enjoy it, and I'll continue following it. And yeah, I think the reason I equate it to things like 24 and Mr. Robot is because I quite enjoy 24, and I've watched season 1 and part of season 2 of Mr. Robot. I've not finished it yet, but I think I'm going to persevere with it to see it to the end. I wasn't that impressed with season 2, but I don't think a lot of people were. So, but yeah, I mean, I quite enjoy this. So I will be picking up issue 2, and I will be continuing on with it and following. I might even read some of the back stuff actually.
Well, that was going to be my second question. Has this inspired you to check out seasons 1 and 2? It
has, yes. I think I will probably go back and pick up some of the other stuff and read through it, because it's. You know what, actually, it's very TV. I think that's why they put it into seasons, because it is something that is very TV.
And, so, I mean, it's my favourite analogy to make on every comic that we read. Yeah. It sounds like this one is the perfect one for that.
It's just the most TV thing I've ever read, anyway, yeah.
I'm definitely going to put it on my list from what you've said. It does sound, at the very least, intriguing. It's the
most Leon book, I think, that I've got here in front of me, yeah. But yeah, check it out. You'd enjoy it, I think. Next one that I've got in my stack, because I've got them all sort of like... I've got Victor Lavalle or Victor Lavalle. Victor Lavalle's Destroyer.
Lavalle,
yeah. We're sorry for butchering your name, if you're listening.
We're really sorry.
Yeah. But I think, which one should we go with? Should we go with Lavalle?
I'm just going to change it every time I say it.
Okay. One of them's going to be right?
Until he tweets us and gives us a recommendation. I'm gonna go with whatever is in my head at the time.
Please accept our apology, man. Please. But we really like your book. This is Victor Lavalle's Destroyer, which
this is the one where after you reading it immediately after you dropped what the basic premise was, and you said, I think you guys would really like it. So based on that, I jumped on it as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't want to be the only person reading this. I need people to talk to people about with this. It's like I can't be the only person reading it. And again, it's another one that I really enjoyed. It's like a modern Frankenstein story. So I think it's actually like a direct sequel, isn't it, to the original Frankenstein?
Yeah, pretty much. It's set like a couple centuries after the original story,
and it actually opens with the original monster. He's in Antarctica and
just chilling.
Yeah, because at the end of the book, he goes off to find solitude, doesn't he? At the end of the original.
I believe so. Like solitude, to be away from horrible humanity.
And we find him here in Antarctica, and he's just chilling, dives in the water. He's swimming with whales, and then all of a sudden, a Japanese whaling vessel descends, and harpoons go in the water. There's blood, and
he's not happy about
it. He gets angry, gets very angry. And carnage ensues because he climbs aboard the Japanese vessel and kills the crew, basically. And we've got like a Greenpeace boat as well, or this book's approximation of Greenpeace. And on this boat, we've got a crew of like activists and people who they actually end up revering him for what he's done. What he's done is like complete violence, taking out this boat full of usual Greenpeace way or the usual way of these protesters when they turn up and they try to disrupt, don't they? Which I think is probably the goal of these guys, but there seems to be some more militant elements amongst them on the boat.
Yeah, and you're not sure if it's for protection or if there's some sort of deeper goal. But it's funny because the Greenpeace crew are quite reverent or fearful, but then the redhead, who's like, is she the daughter of the captain? Or I'm not too sure, but she's quite important on the boat. But she's just instantly making deals and chatting to him.
Yeah, everyone else
has no fear.
Everyone else drops to one knee, and she's just standing there. There's like this great couple of panels where they're all on one knee, heads bowed, like he's a king before them. Because he's took out this Japanese whaling vessel, then he's climbed aboard their vessel, and he's just standing there, and everyone else drops to one knee, and he's just there, just like... And she's just like, trying to make deals with him. She's like, we can use him, He's powerful, he's violent, he could be our weapon in the fight against unnecessary whale death. And her reasoning is, why should I feel anything for them? They just took out that whale and calf. And the guy, obviously the captain of the boat, is like, it's not right. This ain't right. And you get the impression that they were there for a reason, that they kind of knew he might have been there. Because then there's some shady phone calls between the captain and an unknown. And it's like the captain had been sent on this mission to retrieve the original monster as part of a research thing. And there's some really cool moments here where they use music. I picked up on the song lyrics. I don't know if you did.
Here and there.
Yeah, well, the first one that I picked up on was St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go, I owe my soul to the company store, which is Johnny Cash, 16 Tons. And the second one I picked up on was it's later on in the book, and it's The Partisan by Leonard Cohen.
See, that was partially familiar, but I couldn't pinpoint it. I didn't get a chance to look it up.
Yeah, so long story short, the monster does one on this boat as well, because he realizes that these people are like just as bad, and like she catches him up. And you've got like these like showing him world wars, the fact we can fly now, electricity, the atom bomb, and you've got a load of cows in a slaughterhouse, and then you've got
Steve Jobs,
with the iPhone, and then you see a kid get shot.
Yeah, some police brutality, kid getting shot in the back. Police
brutality, yeah. Young boy getting shot in the back. With his arms in the air as well, man. And we've got... The story continues. Monster trashes the whole boat, and we get back into the US, and this research group that want the original monster, or seemingly want the original monster, have been communicating with... They've got a group of scientists that they call the alchemists, which I believe are people that have figured out the riddle of being able to restore people to life, or followed Dr. Frankenstein's research and work and attempted to replicate it at some point. Is with the impression I get anyway. And I think like that's a good place to sort of drop the overview. Yeah, I don't want to go any further and spoil it.
Yeah, because there is some interesting stuff they do with that and the whole Frankenstein lore. But I mean, what initially grabbed you with this? Why was this your big recommendation?
The initial grab for me was the Frankenstein thing. Like, that's what initially got me interested. It's like, oh, modern continuation of Frankenstein. And then also because of how relevant the book is. It's like, it's very on the pulse of what's going on in the world today, I believe. It's quite relevant with the fact that the other people that we're introduced to, we have a scientist mother and her son who is no longer with us, and he was the boy who was shot. It's the police brutality thing, and it's the it's like a young black boy being shot basically by the police, and we get the impression that it wasn't justified, and
his arms in the air, back to the car.
Yeah, wasn't justified. It didn't need to happen. It's one of the there's many of these stories in the news these days, and it's all terrible. And
and he's quite young. He's like 12 years old.
He's 12 years old at the time. Yeah, and his mother is one of these scientists, and you get the idea that she's attempting to revive him, or has been attempting to bring him back. And that was it's relevant, and it's a continuation of the original Frankenstein for me, and it's the way that he's done it, the way that he's brought it up into the modern world, and the way that he's that's
the thing, because it's very striking for first issue. Usually with first issues, it's tough for me. I find it hard to just read one issue and then try and have a point or a view on whether I enjoy it or not, or what it's about. But I think like this is very striking, like earlier on, and that's including the cover art.
Grabs you straight away, doesn't it? Like right from page one. Yeah,
because what one of the things that you said that got me interested in this is you sold it as like I think you gave it a basic overview, and you were like, it's the Frankenstein story, but in modern day. But then you brought up about the kid being shot, and that's what piqued my interest more than usual.
Yeah.
So I thought, there's only one issue out as well. I'll jump on this one based on your recommendation. But there's so many like striking things about it. Not just the story, and like even in the few pages they give you, and some of the sort of memories, and not really flashbacks, but like memories between the scientist and her son. It is quite striking, because it immediately connects you to like some of the stories you would have heard, like for instance, the more famous ones like Trayvon Martin and such. Like, it's immediately striking where you have these circumstances, and what would you do if you had the power to bring back a loved one who was taken too early? And I think in that way, it's made to relate to the original Frankenstein story by Mary Shelley, and I think the author had some extra views on that, saying that how like she had like had a miscarriage or like lost a kid quite young, and this was written not too long after that.
It was like
her Frankenstein book was written not too long after it, so you can feel a lot of the sort of pathos and sort of fear on the pages of that book. I've not read it in a long time, but I remember it being quite striking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of classic horror stories anyway, which is one of the things that drew me to it. And then what you've mentioned as well, with it being on the pulse and with it being quite relevant to today's world, I like seeing that reflected.
Yeah,
I like seeing when people take when people take what's happening in the world and reflect it in their work in this way.
But like in an effective way, where it's not just window dressing, but then also at the same time, it's not just the focal point. This isn't some big statement piece. This is a crazy sort of horror, speculative fiction story where I'm going to bring in some of these real elements, and I think it's handled in a pretty deft way, and I think that is just because of the place it's coming from, in terms of it being written and drawn by two African American men like who live in America. So you're getting that side of it where it's like some sort of like feeling like sort of the uneasiness and anxiety of surviving like that, but being brought into a horror story, which, like all good horror and all good sci-fi, they are about the world around us and various elements of the human condition taken to their most hyperbolic. And so I think in this first issue it's really intriguing because it hooks you straight away, and it's like, now I'm sort of regretting having read issue 1 because I have to wait for issue 2.
Got to wait a whole month now, man.
Yeah, like I'm a trade boy, you know. I'm a trade, but
not anymore.
I will be. Yeah, I was thinking, like, I think I will be trying to keep up with it, actually, because I want to see, at least for the first trade arc, first 5 issues or so. Actually, it says 1 of 6, doesn't it?
I think that's just the covers.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Maybe, I don't know, unless it is actually just 1 of 6.
Yeah,
because you've got...
if it's 1 of 6 of the volume or so, and then... or if it's actually that short a run. But whatever the case, I'm interested in seeing where they go, because I think, like I was saying, that the writing's pretty solid, lots of literary and musical references. You can tell that Lavalle, that he is... quite a fan of that literature, and also has quite an eclectic ear music wise. I think the art is pretty cool. I found the faces to be, it's hard to explain, but it's a very style, in the sense that it doesn't look like a lot of other stuff that is out, but it's not wildly esoteric in any way. It's just, you have very expressive faces. The way hair and eye color are used is very interesting. It looks like it mixes like sort of normal coloring with like newer like digital coloring. for like the more technological parts. So it's quite a nice comic to look at and read, and I'm interested to see where it goes.
It's very different, but also very familiar.
Yeah,
I quite like it. I quite like how they flesh out a character enough at the beginning. They give you a character and they start to flesh her out, and you start to get the impression that she's going to be someone important in the story because she's in it for a few pages. And then, wham, he destroys that boat too. You know, it's like I quite like that. I quite like that it has that. You know, and no, yes, that's a spoiler, but you know what? You should be reading it, so I'm not even going to apologise.
But it's very minor, and I would recommend that you at least try out issue 1 and see how you see what you think.
No, yeah, you should read issue 1 because I think it's great. The next thing I have to talk about is something that I've been following, and I've got the first 3 books now. It's Underwinter, which is entirely by a man named Ray Fawkes. Art and writing. Now, Ray Fawkes is like a fine artist, as well as being, as well as working on comics and writing comics and things. And I think I may have touched on this book before, may have talked about it a little in a previous episode. The art is like an ethereal fever dream. It's all watercolours and pencils, and it's beautiful. Now, when I've touched it, it's a difficult book to describe because it is. I think when I've described it before, so from issue 1, we have a group of musicians who are down on their luck and are given a very lucrative gig playing for a billionaire or millionaire, and they're told that they're playing for a sex party, like some kind of like S&M sex party, in a basement in a very fancy house, and they are given they are to play blindfolded, and they are given $10,000 each per gig. But in the end of the first book, one of the musicians' blindfold slips, and he sees what he's actually playing to, and it's not a billionaire sex party. So
intriguing.
Yeah, and then it moves on through issue 2, and the dread and the tension builds, and they continue to play these gigs, and it seems to be having an effect on the musicians themselves. They seem to be behaving differently, a little more erratically. They seem to be indulging their vices and desires a little more. So they get a little bit more, how should I put this?
Hedonistic?
Yeah, a little bit more hedonistic than usual, because they're already quite hedonistic people. Or some of them are anyway, from the impression you get from issue 1. But it seems that they get, a little worse as it goes on, and maybe it's to do with what they're actually playing their music to. Maybe it's to do with these gigs that they're participating in. And I just want to see how it ends up now. I want to see this crazy evil force or whatever it is that they're playing to. I want to know what all this is about. It's people with ink bleeding from their eyes and every orifice in their body and it's so cool and so creepy. It's like a real it's a real slow burner, but it's like it gets under your skin. It really does.
Sounds like a good hook.
Yeah,
to have for a first issue
for a horror comic, man. It's not your standard horror story. It's one of those really really psychological horror stories. Like not your standard horror story that has a
ones that sort of getting your head.
Yeah, the ones that not one of the ones that has a defined focal point. So something like It has a defined focal point. because Pennywise is the defined focal point. We already know he's bad news.
But you mean where the horror isn't personified in a particular thing, but it's more a sense of dread and all-encompassing dread. Yes,
and it builds up, but then it will be solidified into a form at some point, and that form will be like the culmination of all the terror and all the dread that has been built up through the issues. All the everything, and you get the feeling that it will be coming to. And I think this story, I think Underwinter is designed, I don't think it was meant to be one story. I think it's there's going to be a new story after this. I think this is the first one, so this is Symphony, and when Symphony finishes there'll be another story.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And I think they're all going to be in the same vein, the same kind of like
an anthology series.
Yeah, but not an anthology, because it's only one story at a time.
Yeah.
But you've got I think this is getting towards the end now. So this is part 3, but I think we're going to see the end of Symphony soon, maybe in the next issue, maybe the next 2 issues. But this one opens with a guy on his knees in the woods in the snow with there's like binding sigils and like occult sigils scarred into the trunks of the trees around him.
Okay, so it's a bit Blair Witchy.
Yeah,
Roanoke.
I think it's a little bit eldritch, a little bit. It's like there's this malevolent force that you can't look at directly, or that you can't. I don't know. But I really want to know what it is, and I want to carry on reading it because it's fantastic. And I think other people that enjoy horror should read it, because it's one of the better horror stories I've read. And he really gets across the whole, like, even from the beginning, when he's describing, like, in the first book, when he's describing the way the musician plays violin, but he's like from somebody else's dream. So from one of the musicians having a dream about being played like a violin, but it's almost like where he's describing it, it's almost like bondage and S&M.
Yeah,
because he's like, so, but it's, I don't know, it's so different and so psychological and gets in your head, and it's just, I just think it's great for that. And I'd completely recommend it to anyone who loves horror or likes their grown up psychological horror, because just what it is, it's not the usual horror story where there's a defined focal point and there's something for you to be scared of that is a as you've mentioned with the previous book we were discussing, a blown out of proportion caricature of something that you would fear in your everyday life, or something that you would come across in your everyday life that might make you uneasy. Blown out to the nth level, But yeah, I recommend that. So if you can get hold of books 1 and 2, please do. Read book 3, because it's brilliant. It really is. And
so book 3 is the one that's ongoing at the moment.
Yeah. Book 3 is the one that's been released just now. So we're at issue 3. Yeah, and that's like the third one that is independently published of the 3 that we've talked about. So 3 for 3 right now. I don't think
who's Underwinter published by?
It's Image.
Oh, Image
it's
again.
Image label. It's Ray Fawkes independently published though. So Ray Fawkes has done all of this himself. He's the artist and the writer. Yeah.
That's cool. Cool. Well, I'm going to bring up a comic that I found all by myself that I think you'd be really interested in. It's called Godshaper.
Oh wow, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about it.
I've heard some stuff about this. Yeah, I've heard it's a good book. Yeah.
This, I'm going to say up front. This is this is a book where from when you brought it up and recommended it, this is one where just the concept and that first cover, two things that just sort of hooked me in and intrigued me. So I thought, yeah, I've got to give this a go. And it's really good. It's really good. I've only read the first 2 issues so far, but it's really good. I mean, you've explained the premise on the show before, but like the basic premise is in this world where you have everyone has their own little god that they basically control and follows them around, and they use them to do different things. And then you have an underclass who are godless, but they have the power to shape gods. So they're basically the handymen of the universe. But they're looked on with such disdain and treated pretty harshly. And certain places have like one no-goddy, which is what they called, per town at a time. No goddies at night type thing, and they're basically pushed to be on the fringes of society while also being, in a way, the backbone, like the classic sort of blue collar conundrum that you get. But yeah, this is amazing because set in the US early 20th century, right?
Well, it starts off telling you that in the 1950s something went wrong and everything that used science went, and now everyone's relying on gods, their own personal gods.
But it's brilliant. Like, I mean, first off, like the art by Jonas Gunface. I mean, writer Simon Spurrier, and the art is done by Jonas Gunface, and like the art is amazing. I kind of find it hard to explain, to vocalize what the art is like, because it's something I'm saying nearly every book that we bring up is like the art is just so different from everything else. Like no disrespect to a lot of the sort of bigger comics out there, and your Marvels, your DCs, even your indie ones like your Images and your IDWs, but you have a sort of like aesthetic that a lot of these books have, different ones, but you have these sort of main aesthetics where you open up a comic, even depending on the artist, you're like, I bet this is on Marvel, I bet this is on Image or something. Whereas this, it's kind of like a storybook mixed with like a cartoon. It's hard to explain, but I love it. It's like every page, every panel is just bursting, like it almost feels animated as you're watching it, as like the different characters navigate what they're doing, what their current goal is, going through towns. It all feels, you can feel like the hustle and bustle, you can feel sort of the cold of the night. I think it's all really well done, and I think the world building in it is done just nice and tightly. Like I think they divvy out the details to you here and there without any major big exposition dumps, which I quite like.
Yeah.
And the writing does like a very interesting thing. I mean, first off, it's written, dialogue is written like normally with capital letters and lowercase, not like what you get in a lot of comics, which is all capitals. So I think that was quite interesting. But like the way that works is that every now and again characters will like mumble something or say something under their breath as we all do when they're talking, and that's sort of, it's done in a way where the text there is a bit more faded or lighter, and I think it works to create such a easy to follow but interesting cadence with how all these people talk, because they do speak in a very rhymey, alternate universe sort of American rhyming slang. But not really rhyming, but there's all these new sort of phrases and words that are part of the lexicon that could be tiresome, I guess, if you're not open to that stuff. But for me, it's quite a feast. But yeah, I mean, I mean, have you been keeping up with this? Has there been any more?
Yeah, I've read issue 2. Issue 3 is next month.
Okay.
Apparently, Jonas Goonface is only doing like 6 issues of this, so I don't know whether it's going to end after issue 6 or whether it's going to carry on and somebody else is going to pick up the art. But I'm hoping it doesn't end at issue 6 because I want it to carry on. I really like it. But yeah, you're right. It's really well paced. Read issue 2 now, and there's some great moments in issue 2. Some really good comedy moments in issue 2 as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's really hard to explain.
It's a joy to read, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah, but it's hitting a lot like really interesting elements. I mean, this whole like sort of punk movement around the no-godies called Cantic.
Oh yeah. How about that Cantic? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool to sort of see how people who are treated an underclass in this way form their own culture, and they have these like sort of rules about like looking after other no-godi orphans and stuff like that. Like it's building quite an interesting world that it has to be more than the 6. But it'll be sad to see Goonface go because the even this is like the basic character designs for the lead characters are really, really cool. You have like in issue 1 there's like a really cool sort of a series of splash pages during like a gig of our lead character, and they show like the passage of time but in like one image. And it's very cool and very subversive in ways, and there's a lot of like the way it handles sort of like, cause I've read the first 2 issues as well, I won't give any details away, but the way it handles sort of queer identity and like bisexuality is quite interesting, and it doesn't even feel like it's like bold, it's just a matter of fact, because I'm starting to get the feelings that there's allusions to sort of homophobia and like gay stereotypes in the way that how the no-godies are treated, and we have like, I think it's in issue 2, there's a sort of a monologue going on during a sequence where someone's talking about how these people don't have families and they're insatiable and they're like completely divorced from moral society. So it's like it's doing some interesting things here, and I'm again like Victor Lavalle's Destroyer. I'm hooked again.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
This time it's even more annoying because you've had 2 issues and now you've got to wait for issue 3. But what I found with this is it's like the juxtaposition of a society that relies on gods for everything, for money, for everything. They rely on these gods and they are bound to these gods. They are chained to these gods. And then you've got these the no-godies, the Shapers, who are completely free. They're completely free. They can do whatever they want whenever they want. And they are the architects of this world because they ultimately choose what happens to your god. When you put your god in the hands of a Shaper, he does what he wants with it. He doesn't have to do what you tell him to do. You can't stop him. And you've got the whole Cantic movement as well. It's like freedom. It's music without gods. That's what it is. The foundation of it is in this book is that it is music without the enhancement of gods, because you get the impression that most of the pop stars that are around, most of the famous musicians that people are listening to in this world are using gods to enhance their music, to enhance their voice, so auto-tune, things like that. And it's got that, that kind of, it's got the element there that this is punk, this is what it is. It's music without, it's raw, powerful freedom, I guess, is what I get from it. And it's these people are free from the chains of society because they don't have to rely on gods. They can do whatever they want.
It's like it is like a sort of an outcry, and how the world is sort of set up.
Yeah.
It's cool because as you were saying, with what's happened at the beginning of the story, well, not at the beginning of the story, but what happens in the history of the story, where in the late 50s, I think it says physics went screwy.
Yeah,
like it's interesting to see. Like, I love alternate history stuff and alternate future stuff, and it's interesting to have this setup.
See, most people might get annoyed that doesn't get explained, but I don't want them to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, I like it I like it being set dressing as a backdrop. And they may go into more detail into the past in the future, but like for me, I'm just caught up in what's going on in the story, and none of it feels really contrived. I mean, issues 1 and 2 have situations that sort of tell you more about the lead character N.A. and his relationship with is it Bud, the little cool
Bud,
god?
the god with no human,
with a love for hats.
Yes.
And you just feel like there's a sort of Han Solo Chewbacca vibe going on. I quite like, and I'm interested to see where they go further, especially with how the second issue ends.
I think
this one is a definite recommendation for me.
No, I like it, and I think it's something that I think it's a great book, and in places it's a great expression of freedom, and I think people should read it. And there's another one that we both read, because this is one that I've been hounding people to pick up. And I think people have finally started to pick it up, started reading it, and this is one of my favourites actually at the moment. It's Curse Words. So I'm up to issue 5 now, and I just wanted to have a little bit of a talk about it now. Leon started reading it and might have something to say about it. So I've written something about this already on the Acecomicals blog, and I've
definitely check that out.
Yeah, I've probably mentioned it on previous podcasts as well from time to time. But Curse Words is written by Charles Soule and art is by Ryan Brown. So it already comes from quite a comics pedigree, because Charles Soule has written Daredevil, She-Hulk, he was the Death of Wolverine guy, he's done various Star Wars comics, he's done all kinds of stuff. He's very seasoned within comics world, and it shows. These guys are professionals. They know exactly what they're doing, and this book is great. So it follows the story of our man Wizard, as I've mentioned before, who is from an alternate dimension and finds himself on Earth, sent there with first of all, with the purpose of conquering Earth for his master Syzygy. Decides that he doesn't want to do that. That he quite likes Earth. That he quite likes being free from his master's fist. So he decides to sort of carve his own way, and he becomes like a huge celebrity. People of Twitter love him. They love his little friend Margaret, who's a koala. Starts off as a rat and becomes a koala. There's actually a hashtag going on Twitter at the moment. It's like Team Margaret, which is the same one that's going in the book, which I think is quite interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's it's absolutely insane. It's the easiest way to describe it, because it's magic and comedy and more magic, and he gets himself into these situations because he's made a living on Earth by pretending or seemingly caring about the people of Earth and using his magic to help them.
Yeah, he's like a wizard for hire, isn't
he? Yeah, but then you get sort of later on, you start to see cracks appear in that. Like, he's kind of just self-preservation,
But it's beautiful because it's you sort of see the seduction, because like he arrives and he's like, what is this weird world? And he's got his big plan of what he's been sent to do and what he's going to do. And then just bit by bit, New York starts to win him over. And then he just has the flick of like, man, I love this city.
I love that bit in issue 1 with the cops where he's turned them to stone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then because he's done something awful, but then he just like completely spins it into him being a hero, and like
the way the issue opens, where it's sort of like the cold open, which I like that this does.
Yeah,
where you don't get the title screen for a few pages in, but this one, it just is a great cold open where you have this musician who like has conquered everything but wants to keep his competition behind him. So he wants to become platinum, like literally platinum, and it's just such a great sort of handling of like what celebrity would be like in a world where you've got a famous wizard who can do this stuff. It is quite cool. And like sing like "Be careful what you wish for" type thing.
Yeah, I want to go platinum. I want to literally be platinum. he's a caricature of Justin Bieber if you're interested.
Yeah,
but it's like, and it's basically this. Syzygy doesn't like this. He doesn't like that Wizard's enjoying himself. So the following few books after issue 1 is basically Wizard sending various people to kill him. Even in issue 1, somebody appears to try and kill him.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things that happens, actually. Someone turns up, blows a hole in the wall of his office and tries to smoke him, basically. But yeah, he sort of like digs him. It seems like he's digging himself a deeper and deeper hole, and I love it because it's like,
yeah, because even just where I'm up to in the first, what happens in the first 2 issues is like, it's just digging a hole where it's like spinning plates in a really dumb way, where you're just creating another issue further down the line. So it's funny how like sort of not far focused he is. How he's very sort of just dealing with the now.
Yeah.
And I think he even says I think things were moving pretty fast on one of his bad decisions. But yeah, I love it because it's funny and light, but not empty. And I love the conversations you get with is it Syzygy? Yeah, and his lackeys and how and all the banter you get with Wizard and Margaret, like, and it just feels really fun, and I like that it handles like magic and stuff, but in a non-gothic way. Instead, it feels quite contemporary, but also alien.
Yeah, and he's like, the other characters that are in it as well. The other people that Syzygy has on his payroll per se are like real characters, all of them, and it's hard to kind of describe some of it and some of what I love about it without spoiling it a little bit. So I'm not gonna go too far into that part, but
I'd be restrained.
Yeah, it's hard, it's difficult, but the artwork is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so graphic and bold and bright, and it's just like everything is in like Hawaiian Punch is the best way to describe it. Everything in this book is like it's in that tie-dye pastel blue, pink, yellow,
but like even with like
orange.
The first cover of the word, like curse words on it, big bold, and you've got like that fuchsia-ish, pinkish, purpley colour, like transitioning across. Like I love it, and
the kind of television tracking fizz across the curse words logo.
Yeah, where it's like glitching out.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and the colour palette in it is fantastic, and it's very now. It's very contemporary, but I think that's on purpose because a lot of it is a caricature, actually, of today's world.
This is one I could so see appearing as like an FX comedy.
I wouldn't want it to, though.
So see that happening, like I could so see that happening just because of its setup and him just meeting all these weird, wonderful people while you have sort of a villain of the issue coming after him. Like I don't know, it handles that dynamic really well. And it's such a good setup. I just hope that I mean, from what you've said, it sounds like it's sustaining up to issue 5 at the very least.
Yeah.
I hope that it keeps it up. But again, it's so annoying. I can't believe you've done this to me, Greg. 3 comics that I've got to read on the go. I've
turned you into a monthly man.
That's really annoying. But 3 very good comics that I've been reading this episode, and it's weird because like I hadn't even read because this is Image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
again,
the other two I've read were Boom, and I don't think I've read any Boom comics before that.
Well, the Boom comics I'm now currently reading, they're all like basically it's Boom comics has started with Godshaper for me, and then moved on to Narnwolf, and now
Narnwolf Boom as well.
Yeah, and now I'm reading Destroyer.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. Narnwolf isn't Boom. Narnwolf is Albatross Funny Books.
Godshaper's Boom is
Yes, yeah. Sorry, Narnwolf, you're not Boom. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. No, Narnwolf is Albatross Funny Books. I should know that because I raved about it and I love it.
Yeah.
But Narnwolf is the same people that do Hillbilly, which is that like another one that it's like a kind of like a really cool cult book with like decent artwork. And I think the artist from that had done a cover for Narnwolf, which I've got. That's the first cover I've got for Narnwolf number 1. Narnwolf number 2, which is something I'm looking forward to, which comes out today, because you will be listening to this on Wednesday the 31st of on or after Wednesday the 31st of May. So Narnwolf 2 should be out by then, and there's a Mike Mignola cover, which I'm looking forward to getting hold of, if I can get hold of. Yeah. So there's been a lot of noise about that actually what I've seen on Twitter and Facebook and everything else, social media. It's like everyone's like, look at the Mike Mignola cover. So I'm really excited for that. It looks really cool cover as well. I quite like it. Just Mike Mignola's thing is just, horror art, isn't it? It really is. He's kind of cemented that now. He's good at that. Last one that I have here in my stack to talk about. This is fast becoming the Image cast, because we talk about a lot of Image comics. And there's another one that is published through Image, which is called Rose, which I may have mentioned before previously on another podcast, but only in passing, and I haven't actually had a proper chance to wax lyrical about this book. But it's a fantasy story. It's a fantasy story with a female lead. It starts off with a young girl celebrating a birthday. She's got magical powers that she didn't realise she had. We're in a world that is ruled by an evil empress who she wants to expunge. There's these heroes that used to defend the world. They were like a council of heroes. Each one had a large cat as like a kind of like an animal totem / like He-Man and Battle Cat, kind of like that. So you've got the young girl named Rose. Her village is destroyed by these people. They're hunting down people that can use magic, because people that can use magic are people that can potentially become these heroes from the sounds of things, from what I'm getting from issues 1 and 2. And she's just learning how to use it, basically. She doesn't really understand majority of what's going on. She's angry, and she wants revenge, and book 1 and 2 is basically her figuring out what's going on, what she is, her allies, who are the people that she runs into after escaping her village, and save her. And it's just a great fantasy story. So you've got like the great cats, as I've mentioned. They're like they and the heroes are called the Guardians. And she's like a guardian, but she doesn't know it yet. I get the impression that maybe her father was a guardian, and she's like the last of her kind now. And it's going to be her job, basically, to take down this evil empress. And while it's quite a Well, it's not. I don't want to say that. It's not a... I've read a lot of fantasy stories, and, you know, there's only so many roads you can travel down, I guess. There's not a lot of new ways to do fantasy stories, but it's quite a classic fantasy story. It's quite a good fantasy story, in that it's you know, it's a nice classic fantasy story. When you've seen these old 80s fantasy movies, things like
like Princess Bride, that style?
No, more along the lines of which is the one with the Cyclops? Oh, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's Krull.
So like Krull.
Yeah, it's got stuff like just a bit of Krull about it, a bit of Dungeons and Dragons about it, a bit of like I said, it's got echoes of He-Man with everyone having these great cat buddies.
Clash of the Titans. There's a 80s version of that, is there?
Not Clash of the Titans. More a lot of them are B movies. They didn't do very well, big style, but like Conan the Barbarian, but without a barbarian type thing.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing, you know, it's that kind of fantasy, and it's really, really good. And yeah, it's just a classic fantasy story. I like my fantasy stuff, and it works really well. It's really nice, and it's a joy to read, and the artwork is really good again. The artwork it feels very contemporary. It's like it's got like a little bit of Disney about it in the expressiveness of the faces, like the way the faces have done. It's got like that Disney animation, a little bit of Disney animation about it when you see some of the faces that people are pulling, but it's more detailed and it's more grown up. So less cartoon than Disney animation, but it's got that Disney animation about it in the expressiveness, and you can see it moving, and you could see this as an animation actually. But it's like it echoes the 80s and 90s in fantasy art and everything else. It's got very clear echoes of that. So it's very nostalgic actually reading it. But I would very much recommend this book, which is why I'm talking about it. I recommend everything because I'm very easily pleased. But until Leon and Ray read it, don't bother. But yeah, it's really good. It's a really good fantasy story, and strong female leads and everything else, and I'm really enjoying it. So I guess you know what, it's got like a little bit of Red Sonja about it as well. And
I was thinking that. I didn't say it. Yeah.
It's one of those type of stories. Maybe not, but I guess it's a little. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, no, I really like it, and I'm following that now. And we've got 2 issues of it, and the story's getting good because I get the feeling she's about to discover her cat. She's discovering who she is. She's discovered she can use magic. She's like does something, and then she's like, "How did I do that?" And her allies like, "Explain yourself. You know, you shouldn't be able to do that. You're like one of them type thing." And it's bad guys and undead guardians, and it's also very cool and so very fast moving at the moment, and it makes sense. Obviously it makes sense. It's not so fast moving that it doesn't make sense, but you get the feeling that she's getting, you know, like the whirlwind that's going on, like, what is this? I was just having a birthday and I was enjoying myself, chilling out, and then everything burns down, everybody I know and love dies, and then this. So but yeah, it's great, and I'd pick it up and follow it because I quite enjoy it. And Meredith Finch is the writer, Ig Guara artist. So cool. Yes, very cool. Yeah, so I think we're out of comics, aren't we, Leon?
I think somehow.
Yeah. So that wraps it up for the main stuff we wanted to talk about. A couple of things I'm looking forward to. I've already mentioned Namwolf 2. Also, one that I've had my eye on for today is an anthology book published on Image again, because we're now the Image cast. I've decided, because we don't read anything else from the sounds of it.
Becoming the Boomcast as well.
It's a book called Packless or Parkless. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but it's an anthology book of weird sci-fi strange tales coming out on Image, and that will be today or after today. If you're listening to this podcast, today is the 31st of May, which is when this podcast will air, and if you're listening to this podcast after that, the book's out on the stands. Get it. And it's an anthology of short stories that will continue, and it's weird sci-fi stories. And one of the first stories is a man becoming complacent in a world where everyone is bugs, or something along those lines. It's very weird tales type thing. So we've got a story called Mushroom Bodies, where it's like a guy coming complacent in a world of insects that are also people. It's like weird, like you see him talking to somebody, and then the next minute that, like, I've seen previews of the pages, you see him talking to somebody, and then the next minute that person is a giant millipede or something weird like that. And you've got like some sci-fi story about a war hero who's on a mission to the center of the galaxy because of something to do with his father's lab work and science, which I'm quite interested in. As in the third story in this one is called Amina Cycle, which is a jet wing pilot, and she goes AWOL. And we've got like it sounds totally out there, which is why I'm interested in it. It's like one of these, like, you don't get stuff like this anymore, I guess, where it's just so completely removed from everything and out there. These really out there sci-fi stories. It's probably probably more popular in the 70s and early 80s. You know, like some of the stuff you might have found published in heavy metal. Yeah. It's a little bit. I thought
that's
that.
What you were thinking of.
Yeah, it's got that about it, but it's a bit different to that. It's not heavy metal, because heavy metal was very B-movie. This is very high concept stuff from the sounds of it, so I'm very excited about this. So these are my two recommendations this time. Pick up Narmorph for 1, pick up Narmorph 2, read Packless. Yeah, so if you're going out and buying comics, buy those are what I'm telling you to look out for. So yeah, that I guess wraps it up for today. So that was another show without Rahul. So I hope he makes it back from Wales eventually. I hope he makes it out of the maze.
The Ray versus Kylo Ren.
Ray versus Kylo in the maze. I like to think of it more, if we're going to go with the Star Wars analogy, it's going to be him with Yoda on his back, running around the woods, and then like he sees like versions of himself, and he has to cut his own head off with a lightsaber, like Luke did with the Vader thing, and yeah.
That just sounds like a Tuesday in London.
Cuts Vader's head off, takes off the mask, and it's Rey's head underneath.
That's how you navigate the district line.
What, with a Yoda on your back?
Well, you gotta have the Yoda.
You scan your Oyster card, and you're like, I'm not scared. And then he's like, you will be. So yeah, there we go. That's been Acecomicals, issue 10, episode 10. You can find us on Facebook at Acecomicals. You can find us on Twitter at Acecomicals. You can find us on WordPress, which is acecomicals.wordpress.com. You can find us on iTunes under Acecomicals. You can find us on your favourite podcast app under Acecomicals. We know that we can be found on Pocket Cast because that's the one we use, but I'm pretty sure whatever you use, you will probably be able to find us. If you have any questions for us, you can field those to acecomicals@gmail.com, or you can field those to the Acecomicals Twitter. You can get in touch with me under Bato at Twitter, which is BATTOU. Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett.
Yeah, so if you have questions for Leon as well, you'll be able to get hold of Leon through all the Acecomicals channels, I'm pretty sure. And Acecomicals, over and out.